Good morning, Colts Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Lounge Room Network. As always, we're just two dudes talking Colts. We're your hosts, Stephen and Zack. And on today's episode, we're gonna give you guys some list, man. We're gonna do some fun little list for you guys. We're gonna give you guys no particular order. Our five most important players that we feel. That's us. You know, you can come up with your own, but that's us. Our top five players we feel are the most important for the Colts. Then we're going to give you guys the breakout players. Who are the breakout players? Only one on each side of the ball. But we're going to give you guys our breakout players. And finally, as always, social media sessions. We love answering the questions. We love getting them from you guys. I mean, I'm excited. It's kind of going to be a fun night as we just kind of do these things. Zach's got something he wants to tell you guys real quick, too. We want to hit it on the front end before people try to maybe tap out when they get to the office.
Yeah, man. So just a quick update. First of all, I want to thank every single person that's went to check out our new merch. We're excited about it. We're constantly going to be tweaking that and kind of trying to, give you some cool things. This is just the beginning phase of that. But it does tell us on there how many people have actually visited our page, and we're up to. And I didn't even have a chance to tell Stephen this yet because I just checked right before. We've had 80 people hit on that page already, so that's a really cool feeling because that lets us know, especially me and Stephen, like you mentioned, we're just two Colts guys that love talking ball, but we're connecting with you, that even if you don't buy anything, you're just checking out our stuff, and it just means so much to us. So if you get a chance, go there, check our stuff out. Let us know what you think about it. If you have anything that you would change or an idea, hey, we're open game, man. You can always just message us. That's what we want to do, have a full interactive show. But, yeah, I just want to hit on that to start before we kind of jump in and talk about Colts football. Just a big thank you for everybody who's actually chipped in. And we want to know one thing. If you're the first person, we know for sure someone has bought something on there.
Yes, we do.
If you're the first person that's bought something on there, we want you to DM one of us or give us or say something on Twitter. And, I think that, Steve and I will come up with something special for you, man. I mean, you or her or him, whoever it was, child, I don't care. I just think it's really cool that you support our show. We want to know who you are.
Heck, we may bring you on. We may let you come on and talk a little bit.
We may let you come on, and we may let you run, Twitter questions for one of the pods.
Let you do the opening. Like see how you do with the good morning.
Exactly, man. So yeah, we're just super cool with that. But that being said, I think it's a good segue to kind of kick off the show. I think we're going to do top 5 most important players. No particular order. I don't want people to sit here and think that we're ranking them in this order. We're just going to kind of go back and forth and say, hey, these are who we think are the most important players on this football team for this year, and the players that's going to help us kind of propel us to a really magical season, which I have big hopes for. So, Steve, do you want to kick it off, man? You want to just go? You want to do all 5 and then kind of have a discussion? Or you just want to go back and forth?
Let's just go back and forth because it'll be fun to kind of go. And I will say, I want to say something. Some of the interaction, one little thing about the interaction, I love it, man. I put out, I've got to touch on this really quickly. I put out the whole thing where I made the comment about comparing Trevor Lawrence to Andy Dalton, completely out of context, completely on purpose. And oh my God, man. It did not go well for me. It did not go well. But the other part too was the shocking thing for me was, we did predictions on the record, and I had 13-4 and you had 14-3. And the amount of people who agreed with that kind of surprised me. There was a lot of people who agreed with those numbers. Pretty much everyone had 10 wins or above, but there was not a lot of dissent among Colts Nation on mine and yours win totals, which kind of really surprised me.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see that kind of we're all like-minded. One of the coolest comments, I was looking at YouTube earlier today, and someone commented on that they love that reference of this year's Colts will be like last year's, Buffalo Bills.
Shout out to Wyatt. It was Wyatt
exactly.
that made the comment. Yeah.
Yep. So Wyatt, thanks, man, for interacting with us, and I'm glad that that lets us know that you're hearing our perspectives, and you're hearing our voice. So it's just so cool, man. It really is.
Yeah, I had to say it because it kind of surprised me. So okay, so for me, if we're looking at the most important players, I've got to start with. You have to start with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is the key. He is the most important player to me on the offensive side of the ball. Period. End of sentence. Because if he doesn't play well, if he's 2020 Carson Wentz, not only do we not play as well as we did last year, we probably don't win enough games to get into the playoffs, period. We made the big move. Everyone wanted to see what the big move was. They thought maybe it was trying to jump into the draft for mine and your favorite draft prospect, which was Justin Fields, or was it going after Matthew Stafford? I think the thing with it too, though, man, is that I feel like, Zach, that whatever quarterback we had picked up was going to have to be probably the most important player on the offensive side of the ball, because it's just, what is it, to quote Reggie Jackson in baseball? I know we talked last time, we said baseball. It's like, I don't talk baseball, but he's the straw that stirs the drink. The quarterback, it's just the nature of the quarterback position. So, I've got him. He is number one, and then there's probably going to be a gap. So who do you have, or what do you think of that? Do you agree?
So, yeah, I think we're both going to be aligned the same way. Anybody who knows anything about football knows as your quarterback goes, your football team generally follows. And I would say the exact same thing. He's so important. I don't want to label him as the biggest difference maker or the most important necessarily, but at the end of the day, your quarterback position is paramount for success in this league. And you're not going to go very far for a long period of time with a bad quarterback. I know there's always those, outliers at Trent Dilfers, but those teams had historically good defenses, right? Like you would have to have something like that for you to be able to go out there and actually, produce with a guy who's average or below average. So the expectations of Frank Reich, Chris Ballard, this whole team in general is that Carson Wentz is the guy that can propel us. And that really tells me, Stephen, that we're in a win now mode. Had we not been in a win now mode, had he not built this team to win now, I believe he probably would have tried to trade up in this draft and maybe make a big move that way. But I don't think he wanted to stunt the growth of this team. I think he thought, if I get the right guy who we're familiar with, I trust Frank Reich above all. They just have a great working relationship. I think that Carson Wentz was the guy that we decided at the end of the day was the right person and the right fit for us all along. And so the jury's still out. We'll see what Carson does, but I 100% agree with you. This really quarterback position is huge.
What you're saying, too, is a great point on when Irsay did the interview before the move was made. And we couldn't really talk about any of the moves. It was all speculation, and Stafford was even still out there. Irsay had that, and he made the comment that they were looking for they liked the idea of a younger quarterback, but they needed a vet because they felt like they were in win now mode. And he kind of checked both the boxes, because Carson Wentz he's 27, or he just turned 28.
28.
He's still, think me and you talked and said he's got 10 years probably of still solid football if he can get back. So, it meets both the requirements. So, you call me what you want. It's quarterback, you got to rein him in there.
Exactly, man. I think you're right. There's just no doubt about it. And hey, if this season goes south, most likely it's going to be because Carson Wentz didn't have a good season. Mm-hmm. And then everything goes south, right? Then the decision maker goes south, because who's making these decisions, and why did they do this with this incredible, once in every 10-year quarterback class that we could have cashed in on. So there's a lot of pressure on, the general management, Ed Dodds, who I love, Frank Reich. There's a lot of pressure, but I think it was the right move. And I think as the season goes, I think we'll be very happy with the outcome as far as that goes. So as far as number 2, I'll leave number 2 off, and we'll just kind of play back and forth if that's cool with you.
That's perfect, man.
So number 2 for me is obviously the Maniac. I mean, he is to me the heartbeat of our defense. I mean, he's the one guy on our defense that I feel like in a matter of one play can completely change the outcome of the football game. You know, whether it being a sack off the edge, whether it being, stripping a guy. This guy has the most unbelievable punch when he's knocking the ball out. These freakish interceptions that he comes up with. But not just that, but I mean, he's just all over the field, and his energy level just kind of, as he's playing with that high energy, you can just see the rest of the guys kind of following Darius Leonard. So for me, like I said, we're not going to number them in order, but he's a very important part on the defensive side. And you just, this defense is different when he's not on the field, and he's missed a few games.
It's very different when he's not playing.
They're a very different team, and teams score a lot more points, and they're just not scared to attack us in the middle of that field because they know that freak athlete's not out there. And man, I tell you, he's a generational. I think he'll go down. I think he'll end up being a Hall of Famer. I really do. It'll be a long career. We'll see what happens. Health is a big part of that, obviously.
And that's been an issue. That's been an issue for him.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he's going to get paid a huge contract. I know there's been talks of preliminary contract extension. I have absolutely zero, only zero, because you can't go lower than 0% doubt that he's going to get a contract extension for the Indianapolis Colts. If he wants to play for the Colts, he will play for the Colts. It's just it's that simple. So for me, he's the second guy I'll have on my list.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, he for me, he is like Carson Wentz in the quarterback position for the defense. He kind of reminds me, and this is going to be kind of weird and kind of funny at the same time, is he reminds me a little bit of when Bob Sanders showed up back in the day. Darius Leonard came in, walked in with a massive chip on his shoulder because he literally was called, and I know it's hard for people to think back to this. He was called the worst pick in the entire draft. Like they were livid about this pick. And all he's done is stroll in there. And I mean, I can remember having conversations with my brother, arguing back and forth about him being defensive rookie of the year. Like early on, I'm like, he's going to win it. Like, dude's going to have like almost 200 tackles. He's going to win it. And the argument, my brother's a big Florida State fan, was Derwin James. And we just went back and forth. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this guy he's a legit player. Like, he is ridiculously good, and everyone's going to know who he is. And I agree with you too, man. The energy level that he plays with is insane. I mean, this is the same guy who, because there was no Pro Bowl this year, suited up in his Pro Bowl uniform and played in his yard in South Carolina, like pretended he was in the Pro Bowl. Like, he loves football, and he's going to be a happy man. He's going to be a really happy man because he's going to get paid this offseason. I mean, I think the number I saw was what, 18? Was it 18 or $19 million a year?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up being
floor.
I mean, that's big money. That's a big investment. But I think it happens, and he deserves the contract. Those two 4-year guys. I think one thing really important to mention before we move on to the next is that Braden Smith and Darius Leonard are in different positions than Quentin Nelson. Everybody. Yeah. So I don't think the Colts Nation should ever get confused and think to themselves, well, why are they not prioritizing?
Why are they paying these other guys first?
Well, because he has a 5th-year extension. Mm-hmm. He's already been guaranteed that money. He's going to be paid very, very well in his 5th year. And that extension, in my mind, comes after these two guys, because these two guys are going to they're out the door next year.
They bought their time with Q. It's a hefty extension. I feel like it's like, I don't know why, but the number 20 million comes into my mind, but it may not be that high because he's a guard and not a tackle, but he's getting paid. He is getting paid. And I think that's a great point, because people get really confused and they'll look at it and go, man, they're prioritizing Darius Leonard. They're prioritizing Braden Smith. It's going to look the same way, in a few years when when we have to prioritize, because like you said, he's got that 5th-year extension. He's got that 5th-year option. Darius Leonard does not. So he's going to get paid. That's why you hear all the talk that it's Darius Leonard and it's Braden Smith. They're the two who are probably going to get paid this offseason, and it's going to be Q next offseason or during the season, one of the two. He's going to get – and that leads to my next one. Okay. So that leads really well into my next one, because the rumors are swirling about this one too, is Eric Fisher. And I know people are going to be like, man, you're picking a player who's not taken a single snap for the Indianapolis Colts, but he's the left tackle. Like he's crucial, man. He is so important, because we've seen what happens, one, with a quarterback who gets battered, because we've seen it firsthand with Andrew Luck. I mean, and then what it did to Carson Wentz last year to have that pressure. The importance. We saw what it was like to not have Costanzo in the game for Rivers too, and it's a huge deal. You feel like you can't understate the importance of a left tackle for a quarterback. It's one of the key positions. I mean, I could be really funny and I could have said Tevy, and that would have probably blown people's minds. But the left tackle is just that important. And the reason I said that it segues really well is you're hearing things now from like Zach Kiefer and Stephen Holder that are saying this deal is actually a 2-year deal. I know me and you talked about, we hated the fact it was 1 year. It's kind of like a ghost second year. Like there's already talks between Ballard, the Colts, and Fisher that if you can get back healthy and you look good, we're going to extend you. Like you're going to be here long term, which I know you love, because you were not a fan of the 1-year contract.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I thought that was just so paramount, especially going into next year, where you hope everything with Carson works out so well that you actually don't have the first-round pick, because that means Carson played healthy and played very well, for this football team. I think the idea of having him locked up is a big deal. I didn't put him in my top 5. That's really not a bad call, but I just didn't put him in my top 5. I think this is a pretty loaded football team. As we go through the top 5, we'll all realize. My third guy is going to be on the other side, though. I'm going to go with Braden Smith. And my justification with that one is real simple. He blocks. He's not the left tackle, but he's a right tackle. He's younger, and probably one of the best 2 or 3 right tackles in the NFL, in my opinion. I think he is a high-level right tackle, a young guy. He's only played 4 years, so that means you get to extend this guy for a 5-year deal in the prime of his career, and you're done. I mean, once you sign that dotted line, you're done on that side, and then you just got to figure out what you're going to do on that left side long term. But whoever's going to be playing on that other side is going to be playing on the other side of Braden Smith. And he's just so important, man. I mean, he did so well for us last year, not only in the passing game, but in the run game. I mean, he broke a lot of things loose for us. So for me, he's my third guy on the list. He's just a crucial part of this football team. Not the flashiest guy. I know he's not going to be making all the Pro Bowls, and you're not going to hear his name mentioned as much as some of the other ones, but he is super solid and so important to the Indianapolis Colts future for the next 5 years, in my opinion.
No, I agree. It's funny when you say not flashy at all. Like the dude just got on Twitter and he gives gardening advice, which is hilarious. Like he got on Twitter and asked for follows, and then like one day he had like 3,000. So It just kind of shows what he's like. In my opinion, I'm going to go one above you with him. I'm going to say I think he's the best right tackle in the NFL. I really do. I mean, it doesn't show with Pro Bowls and things like that, but I think he is the best right tackle in the NFL. I mean, he's just. And what's funny is I didn't have him in my top 5. He wasn't on there. I mean, for me, if I'm going to my next one, because I did have Leonard. So far, I've been on this. So this is number 4 for me. Man, I'm going to put – let me see. I've got 2 in my head. I'm going to put Julian Blackman.
Wow.
I want to see him because that back end. It was between him and Xavier Rhodes for me. that secondary is going to be the secondary for me felt like the weakness on the defense last year. And I mean, well, truthfully, the weakness was pass rush, but I'm not putting Kwity Paye in the top 5, and I'm not putting, you might reach through the screen and just take my mic away if I put Kamoko Ture on there. But so, I mean, that secondary to me, outside of the pass rush, was kind of the most suspect of all of it. I want to see him continue to develop because as great as he was, and we love him, and I mean, he was, when he came out of the gates hot and he took that spot from Malik Hooker. Granted, Malik Hooker went down, but I mean, I think we all kind of felt like Malik wasn't playing up to where he should have been. And so it was just a matter of time. But he came out and then he did, like, it's, as much as we love him, we don't want to criticize, but so that's what we do sometimes. He faded as the year went on. I think that's part of still rehabbing. That's part of college seasons are at the time, 5 games shorter at the max. Now they're 6 games shorter. So, I mean, it's the conditioning. I want to see him take the next step. I think he can be the leader in that secondary on the back end because we know Kenny Moore is the leader of the corners. But I think he can be that leader. I want to see him continue to develop. I think he's really crucial in the role that he plays.
Yeah, man, he's actually not on my list. Might be hearing about him a little bit later, but he is definitely not on my list. But that's a great call. And, one of the first things I thought when I saw him, and a couple people thought, man, you're crazy for saying this. And this is before he ever played one game, just watching his highlight films. The very first player comp I ever thought of him was, I was like, that's Earl Thomas. Like, that is literally Earl Thomas.
I love that.
Like he literally, I mean, he is a ball magnet, but I mean, he's a guy who will legitimately just destroy you and blow everything up. He's not afraid to put his body on the line, but he's not just a playmaker in a sense where he takes the ball away from you. He's a playmaker where he punches the ball out. He's a playmaker where he stops that guy behind the line of scrimmage, or if he blitzes off the end. He's always doing something to positive in a game. So, I mean, I love that. I love that call, man. I mean, it's just really, really.
Let's not forget, when you say he's not afraid to hit, he stood Derrick Henry up in the backfield in the second game of the year. He came through there and he stood Derrick Henry up, which doesn't really happen very often.
That dude's different, man. I mean, he really is. I mean, there's just no different. There's no doubt about it. And my next guy, I guess I'm on my fourth kind of segue into this. This is the guy I will go on record and say he is the best player on our football team, and that's DeForest Buckner. That's
a good one.
I think he is the best football player, the most talented. If he wasn't so unfortunate in his life to have played the same exact time as Aaron Donald, he would be the best defensive tackle of his whole generation. I mean, I think he's that good. We all see the highlight films of him taking one arm and literally just lifting a man off of the ground.
A
grown ass 300-pound man off of the ground and just throwing him out of the way. I mean, he's virtually unblockable. I mean, really. I mean, I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, Colts, you're just drinking the Colts Kool-Aid, but he literally is virtually unblockable, in my opinion. You got to have a game plan for that guy every single game. If you're an offensive coordinator, especially if you're an offensive line coach, and you're not talking about DeForest Buckner, then you don't really need to have a job. I mean, that guy, I mean, he is unbelievable. I mean, he really is. And I think that was a home run trade, trading that 13th pick for him. That guy it's just unfortunate Aaron Donald plays in the NFL, or he would be the best. He'd just be the best D tackle in the game. But still, out of this world talent. And I think he is the best, most talented player on our football team. So there's my number 4.
I love that, man. I mean, you're right. I say all the time, I live in Tennessee. I'm surrounded by Titans fans. And I can tell you for a fact that when they played the second game of the year and we were ravaged by COVID, it is talked about all the time that they won that game because Buckner wasn't there. Buckner wasn't, Autry wasn't, but Buckner was not there. And if you need to know how important he is, look at the D line from last year and look at the year before. That's it. That's all you have to do. He literally changed the entire unit. And the crazy thing for me with him is he doesn't have to get home. Because of the double team that he gets, everyone else can get pressure. Everyone else can try to get home.
He's so long with those arms, can knock the ball down.
And he's fast. Like he chases guys down like 20 yards down the field and he makes the tackle. Man. Okay. So he's in my top 5, but to be different, because I don't want Colts Nation to come slamming at me because DeForest Buckner isn't in my top 5. He's there, but I want to be different. I want to add one more. For me, it's going to be it's going to be another second-year player. It's going to be Michael Pittman Jr. Because same kind of thing for me as in with Julian Blackmon. We talked about it last time when we talked about the receivers is they're so devastated with injuries most of the time. We look really deep right now. Me and you were struggling to figure out who's 5, let alone who 6 is going to be, and if there even is going to be a 6. We need to develop, because I also truly believe that this is probably TY's last year in Indianapolis. It pains me, it hurts me, but it's probably the last year. We need to develop the next number 1 wide receiver. Unlike both of our mutual friend, Michael Terrazas, I do not feel like he is the number 1 receiver, but I do agree with what you said last week, which was he will start not the number 1, but he will end the season as the number 1. But we've got to develop, just look over the history of the Colts. It went from Marvin to Reggie to TY. We've got to have somebody, and they do like each other, and TY's willing to impart knowledge. I feel like, and also Carson needs a go-to target. He needs someone that he can trust. He can close his eyes and chuck that ball. And in my opinion, it's Pittman. And I mean, he's young. He's ready. He was really emerging last year. God willing, he doesn't get injured this year. I wanted to kind of possibly put Paris Campbell on there, but the injuries really do worry me with him. Although I don't know if you've seen the videos, he looks great. He looks really good right now. But so to be different, I'm going to put him on the list.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my 5th one was really, really, really hard for me. And the only reason is because we're gauging how important these players are to this team. And we're not saying who's the best player. I think everybody would have Quentin Nelson, way up there for this football team. And that's not to diminish his ability and what he does for this team. It's unbelievable. I mean, you just watch all of the film with him and the things he does in the run game. But I actually went with Jonathan Taylor. And here's why I went with Jonathan Taylor. I just think the style of football that Frank Reich has always wanted to play was the style of football where we take the football away, we play really, really good defense, and when it's time to win the game in the 4th quarter, to just hammer it home. And I think he's the guy this year for me. He just epitomizes, the running back that you want. He's just a workhorse type of guy, and you see it in those games later in the season, especially those last 7 or 8 games. When he got the ball late in the game, and the longer the game went on, the better he became as a runner, man. I mean, he just started wearing teams down because he's just a freak athlete. He's just one of those special guys that has the ability not only to run guys over, also to take off and leave them. I mean, we all remember that run. It's kind of in our highlight segment, taking off against Jacksonville and taking it to the house and kind of finishing up our season, which was just glorious for everybody who's a Colts fan. But that dude he's a special talent. I think you'll see this year, I think you'll see an evolution in him catching the football as well. I just think he's so important to this football team, man. I really do. I think as he goes, it makes Carson's job a lot easier. Carson doesn't have to go out there and be this superhero Star Wars quarterback. He can just be not necessarily a game manager, but he can be a much more comfortable guy knowing that he's got a guy like Jonathan Taylor that, hey, at the very end of the day, if you want to play the pass and you want to let us go with Jonathan Taylor just to finish the game, hey, I'll just check out of it and I'll just hand it to Taylor and he'll get us that last 2 or 3 yards to finish the game, and we'll just knee it and go into victory formation and call it a day.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, what's funny is we sit here and me and you talked earlier. We were like, we're gonna do top 5, and I'm sitting here now. It's like, man, you could do top 10. You could just keep naming because that's such a great one. And I love Jonathan Taylor. I mean, for people who've listened to this podcast for a while now, like I was huge. I coined, the Taylor train. And when he just got going, and the scary thing is, like you said too, is look at how he came on at the end. Now, part of that was he was fresh, but he learned, like, if you watch before, and there were reports too that the O-line at the time in the beginning of the season didn't necessarily like how he was running as opposed to Marlon Mack. And then they just gelled. And you could see even then too, like I think people were having those PTSD flashbacks of Trent Richardson running into the back of the O-line when the hole's over here. And he was kind of doing that. But it was just because he was learning. He had to catch up to the speed of the game. And once he did, oh my God. I mean, you're so right though, because I think we joked too about the Buffalo game in the playoffs was that if you hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor 4 times from the 2, he's going to get in eventually. And that's kind of what you feel now anyway too. Turn the ball, let him have it. I mean, he's going to be 1,000-yard back again. I mean, I don't know how he's not. So I wish I would have put him on my list. I'm glad that you did, because he's just, and it just highlights too, like, does it not look at the list that we gave? These are all, I mean, Buckner was the trade, but then you look too, we didn't put Quentin Nelson, but we put Darius Leonard, 2nd-round pick. Braden Smith, 2nd-round pick. Julian Blackmon, 2nd-round pick. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, 2nd-round picks. Like, it just goes to show the eye for talent that Ballard has and how good he is, not really outside of the 1st round of the draft.
Yeah, man, you're exactly right. I mean, the list could have went on and on and on, honestly. Kenny Moore, how can you leave that guy off? I mean, that guy's an unbelievable football player. And to me, he's our best player in our secondary right now. Hopefully it evolves and some other players step up, some young guys. But he's an unbelievable player, man. I mean, had probably one of the greatest highlight reels I've ever seen. Back, just one hand, just clawing it out of the sky. I mean,
I don't think he could have stretched out any further for that interception.
It was just something to be seen, man. I mean, and that dude is the epitome of a football player, and he's always in the right position. He just doesn't get beat very often. 99 times out of 100, Kenny Moore's going to be where he's supposed to be. It's just that plain and simple. So this team is just, we're loaded with talent, young talent, veteran talent. You just have a great mixture as far as that goes.
Well, you make a great point right there too. When you say veteran talent, Irsay made a point of coming out. I think the Colts are the 2nd youngest team, average age in the NFL.
Yeah.
So there's veterans at key positions, and then there's a load of great young talent. Like, that's the scary part.
We've got a 5-year window, man, where we should just be a really competitive football team for the next 5 years.
Let's go, man. Come on.
There's just no reason to not do that. And I guess if you want to segue kind of into our breakout player, you want to go first? Or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go. So
okay,
I'll do. Offense. You want to do offense, defense, and then you go offense, defense.
Yep.
Okay, so breakout player for me on offense this year is going to be Paris Campbell. I'm not going to like dance around it or try to be cute and funny. I'm now, that is banking on the fact that he stays healthy. Okay. He has to stay healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, he's not going to be on this team much longer anyway. But I feel like this is the year finally. The injuries to me, if he gets another one, then he's injury prone. If he doesn't, these are freak injuries when you look. Like we've joked all the time. Broken foot, broken hand, his rookie season. Then just the end around and the weird hit. And I mean, he didn't really tear anything, but just bad enough for him to be out. And I mean, great news this week was he came out, I think it was yesterday, and said the doctor cleared. He's 100% all go. So he's ready to go. Y'all go to Colts.com, watch the videos. He looks good. He looks really good. The cuts look good. The speed still looks there. And Carson likes to chuck the ball, man. Carson loves to chuck the ball, and he's not going to overthrow Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell is ridiculously fast. I think he's 4.2 speed when he was coming out. Question with the injuries, is he still that? Let's say he's lost a little bit. He's still super fast. I just feel, and even last year before the injury, and you can tell me if you disagree, he looked good. He looked like he had a good connection with Rivers. He looked like he was ready to kind of take that step. I like it. I think he's kind of going to be a breakout. He's wearing number 1 now. When they asked him, he said fresh start, new start. So, he feels good. He's in the right headspace. And if you follow him on Twitter and things like that, he never got in the wrong headspace, but you could tell he was really down after the injury this year. You could kind of sense that he missed being around the team. So he's in a great headspace. He looks great. I think he's got a quarterback who can get him the ball. I think he's a 1,000-yard receiver this year, man.
Man, that would be amazing. You're right on it, man. It looked like early on, I thought that was Phillip Rivers' favorite target. Early on, I thought, man, they got some connection, some chemistry here, man. He really starting to trust him a little bit. And then, of course, the unfortunate injury, and this guy is just the crazy thing about Campbell is he wasn't an injury-prone guy in college
at all.
Like, he played, I think, every game pretty much in college. So it's just like this freakish thing that happens. And let's just hope maybe, clean slate, like you mentioned, it all comes out and he can be – he's a special player, and he's really the X factor, right? He's really the guy that if this team wants to go from just a really good team to a great team, you got to have a guy like Paris Campbell come out and show out this year. And I think that's a great, great call as far as a breakout player. So do you want to go defense, or do you want me to go offense?
Let's hear your offense, man. We'll go back and forth. Let's hear who you got.
Okay, cool. So my player stat line right here, 80 catches, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, Michael Pittman Jr. That's me. He's the breakout guy this year. I think he's going to have a really, really good year. I think he's going to catch fire. He has great NFL pedigree. I loved him. You mentioned Mike T earlier. I don't always agree with everything that Mike T says, but one thing, Mike T kind of called it the year that they drafted him, and it was a great call. He's just such a reliable guy. I was just watching his highlight film the other day, and I just thought, man, it's just so cool to watch him play football. He's just a damn good football player. Mm-hmm. He's one of the guys, too, Stephen, I feel like wants to be great. All of them talk a good game. All of them say this and say that. You just feel like he wants to be great. He wants to be the man. He wants that ball when the game is on the line. So I look forward to seeing him have those opportunities. Last play of the game, 4th and 3, we need 3 yards to keep the game going. And we throw a 5-yard slant. He just stretches out and gets us that first down, and we get to keep the game going. I just look so forward to that. So he's my breakout player. I know it's kind of an obvious choice, but for me, he's the guy. You mentioned earlier handing the keys over. Marvin went to Reggie, and Reggie went to Ty. I think Ty finally hands the keys over to Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's the next real deal wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. So that's my breakout.
No, I love that one too. That if I wasn't going to go with Campbell, that was going to be my pick. It's funny because he made my list of the top 5 most important too, but yeah, he's just, and I think it's important to note for him when you talk about him wanting to be great. It's easy for people to forget his dad was a really good NFL running back. So, it runs in his family. He wants to be good. He's also married. He's got a kid. He's not out, all over the place. Yes, he has a YouTube channel. Yes, I do watch it. It is really funny. But he's very focused, man. And you said it last time on the last episode, and I think it's really important to say it, is we didn't see one of his biggest positives coming out of college last year, and we're probably going to see it this year, which is the 50-50 balls.
Yep.
I don't know if Rivers wasn't comfortable with it, if Rivers couldn't get the ball to him for it, but if he shows Carson he's going to go get it, he's going to get those 50-50 balls this year. And that's where you're going to get those touchdown numbers are going to go up.
Exactly, man. I agree 100%. I just think it's going to be a big-time dynamic year for him in the passing game. I'm excited. I'm a fan. I'm just rooting for him so much. I think it's going to be kind of crazy to see him and possibly Paris Campbell kind of turn this new leaf, and new chapter, this new era for the horseshoe, man. I mean, I think there's a possibility that TY maybe signs a 1-year extension or something if things go right. But you're right. I don't see any type of long-term deal with TY. I think his door is closing. I don't know how fast that door is closing, but his door is definitely closing.
Hurts the heart a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man.
I was going to say one more thing with Pittman too, is when you talk about him as being a breakout, it's so important to, I believe he's probably caught until right now with the little 2-week stretch of practices they're doing, is he has probably caught the most balls from Carson since the day. I mean, literally Carson signed and like 2 days later he was in California throwing with Pittman. So they've worked from like day one that he signed to build that connection. So I think that's a really good point too. So my defense, okay, man, this is where we're going to disagree. We're going to see what you think of who I say. I am going to go with Rock Yassin. I'm going to buy you a jersey, man. I'm going to send it to the Boyd House.
Blast.
I think it, well, for me, it's do or die right now. If he wants to be an NFL player and he wants to be the main cornerback one, which we joked last time, like we know like Kenny Moore's one, Xavier, but everyone knows what I mean. If he wants to be that guy, it is put up or shut up time at this point in time in his career. He's got to show it. He got benched for TJ Carey, who's a journeyman quarterback last year. In my opinion, the reason I have him on here is he has, in my opinion, he has all the talent. He does have the skills. I do like the new cornerback coach who preaches kind of very aggressive play, but also to go get the ball, not play the player, play the ball. And I think that's really important for him. And maybe some of it is I hold hope. I hold hope for him because I have seen some for years who were watching you on YouTube. Zach is tripping out right now that I've done
Please do not turn this podcast off right now. Please do not.
He's just, in my opinion, and I'll say this too, his rookie season, outside of one really, really, really bad game against Denver where he had like 4 pass interference calls, he played well.
Cortland Sutton. He's still holding, right now that Denver game.
I mean, well, you do point out Cortland Sutton's a hell of a wide receiver too.
You lost your mind, Stephen. This guy.
But I think, I'm gonna say it just because it's either, like I said, it's do or die. He's, like we said last time, he's either going to play himself out of playing for the Colts, or he's going to be what they think he is. And I do still think, man, and I know we talked about this, is that they didn't draft a corner. They didn't really bring in anybody to show like I think this is it. This is it for him. I mean, they know that if he flounders, they'll put TJ Carey in there. They've got Marvell Tell coming back, who I think is a big time player potentially. But I mean, you've got to have it. They traded for him, in the draft. He's a high pick. I got nothing else. I'm not going to sway Zach. I'm not going to sway him onto this pick.
You know what? I just want to say this. I absolutely 100% hope you're right. I don't think you will be right, but I hope you're right. That, I want to be wrong. Never have I ever want to be wrong more. I mean, my God, I mean, we literally passed on Sweat to draft Rock Ya-Sin. I mean, he might as well end up in his third year being a productive. If he could ever just get to the point where he's a really solid number 2, I wouldn't have any gripe with him, honestly. Like if he could ever just not be a liability, you never know. I mean, Chris Ballard, he's the one who evaluates football. I just talk about football. So you just never know. I'm going to go to my breakout guy, and that's Julian Blackman, man. I think
that's a good one too.
That's the breakout for me. I think he's the real deal. I think he earns his first Pro Bowl this year. Honestly, I think he takes that type of leap. It's going to be special, and I think when this year's over with, I think the narrative for our defense on the back end is as that guy goes, our defense goes. Honestly, I think he's going to be all over the field, just out there making plays. He's a special talent. I just feel it. I mean, he's a really special player. I think he breaks out into something just incredible. So, I mean, yeah, he's my guy. He's the one in the back end that's probably going to be coming up, picking up the slack for Rock Ya-Sin, when he's blowing coverage. But
he doesn't blow coverage. He just grabs them.
Just pass interference. Just throw the flag.
Here's a question. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on Julian Blackman. Over under 5 picks this year. What do you think?
That's a great number.
It's like perfect.
Yeah, because I would say 5 if I were guessing, to be honest with you.
You want 4.5? Over under 4.5.
No, I'll be fair. Over under 5 picks, I'm going to say under, but I think he'll have 4 or 5. I think because playing that position, he'll get his chances. I think he'll get his chances, but he's going to make a lot of impact plays for our team this year, honestly. And I think I'm really excited for that next year step. That dude's needle is going sky high. It's going straight up. And I think as long as he can stay healthy, sky's the limit for that guy. I think he's a lifetime Colt, in my opinion.
And I always enjoy pointing out, too, with these things. Yet another pick by Ballard that was just lambasted in the draft. He was told he took the worser of the 2 Utah safeties. So just another one where there's a reason why the man gets paid a lot of money, because he's really, really good at his job. So there's our list, you guys. It's always fun to do them. We're going to kind of jump over now into social media sessions powered by One Call Technology. One Call Technology is a leading telecommunications provider. They have over 100 years of experience between all of their technicians and their employees. One Call helps with carrier services, hosted phone systems, premise-based phone systems. And for those who don't know, telecommunications basically is those things. If you think you're paying too much on your phone bill and you want them to take a look at it, go over to onecalltech.com, hit the contact us, send an email in, and they will get back to you as soon as possible. So before we get into the questions, okay, because we got some good ones again, I want to start off with something that I saw on Twitter and I sent to you. I want to get your opinion, man. So we all know that Kenny Moore breaks news like he's Adam Schefter nowadays, and he typed one word. So for those of you who don't follow Kenny Moore, go follow him. If you didn't, you could see our retweets. I always like to say, you know where to find me. It's at Stephen Burton 86. Zack is at Colts. Why did I just completely space, man? Holy smokes.
It's all good.
Oh my God. Or at No Horson. Oh my goodness gracious, man. It's Thursday.
Yeah, no big deal.
Oh no. I am very disappointed in myself right now. But okay. So for those who don't, Kenny Moore typed one word and then he just let it be. And then he deleted it. He typed Julio. And it went crazy today. I think he came out and said it was a joke. He was just trying to see. But what do you like? There's no way in my mind that Ballard tries to do something like that. It's going to cost too much.
Well, it's just nothing about that move, says Chris Ballard, right? Like, I mean, a lot of money, first of all, having to give up draft capital, second of all, a player who's later in his career and has had a little bit of an injury situation here, especially in the last couple. It just doesn't say Chris Ballard to me. Now, I would love to have a guy like that on our football team. I mean, you want to talk about making a move, I mean, to really just take it to the next level. I mean, that's a big time move. That's a power move, actually. But I don't think Chris Ballard is going to do it. And I think in this instance, I think he was just kind of trying to get a razz out of the Colts Nation.
He did it, dude.
And it worked, man.
T.Y. Hilton said something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the interesting thing for me with it would be everyone's kind of known Julio's moving. He's on the move more than likely. He's got to be on the move later because of how much he's going to be due. I think it's post June 1st, right? I think is where he gets a huge dip on what the Falcons will have to eat. But I mean, I'll say this. If Ballard could get him for like a 3 and a 4, I'd entertain it. But I mean, he's not. Like Julio's going to be a 1 and a 2, a 1 and a future 1. I mean, he is. People forget because he's not been because Atlanta's been pretty bad lately. Like he's still really, really good. But I mean, it's not a Ballard move. Ballard doesn't go big for skill positions like that. You know, if they typed the word Aaron, and it was like he's talking about Aaron Donald, Ballard would give up 2 years worth of draft picks. You know, before Buckner, he would have given up like 2 years worth of draft picks to go get a player like that because he loves the lines. But he's not going to make a big move. I mean, we've not even invested a first-round pick in a wide receiver. We've done multiple seconds. But, man, you talk about just setting it ablaze. That I sent Zach that like right away. I was like, did you see this?
Yeah, it was unbelievable, man. I just couldn't believe he did it, just kind of getting everything going. I tell you one move with Julio, it's not Colts related. If I'm the Green Bay Packers and I want Aaron Rodgers to be my quarterback, I say, listen, I'm going to go get Julio Jones for you. Let's just let all of this go. Let's act like this never happened. We'll put our own spin on it. I'm going to go there and get Julio Jones and Devontae Adams on both sides.
Holy
who you want
smokes.
to guard, you know, and really put him in kind of a win now mode. And for me, that was the two places I instantly thought was there and then send him out to Seattle to play with Russell Wilson. Like I thought those two places. And Seattle's a little more normal because Seattle is a type of team that makes big moves to go out and
they do that.
Yeah. The Packers don't generally have the business model of going out and trading for people. They're a little bit more aligned with how the Colts think. They're really big on their draft picks and they're really big on just, you know, signing their own. But man, wherever he lands, he's going to be a power move. I mean, he's going to move the needle for somebody, and most likely it's going to be a playoff contender. Because I mean, you don't go out and get Julio, you know, if you don't want to be. What about this? Let me just throw this out there to you. What about Julio Jones for Odell Beckham Jr.? Who you got? You do that trade?
Every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I'm not an Odell fan.
I mean, neither. I think he's done playing football personally. That's just me.
He's a personality. He's super talented. But I also agree with what a lot of people say with him, which is he doesn't seem to fit in Cleveland. It doesn't seem to fit right. Baker forces the ball to him. They play better. I'm not saying they're a better team without him, but they play better because he doesn't force the ball to him because he feels like he has to. I mean, Jarvis Landry is a perfect number one there. So, I mean, I would do it. I would do it. It would be so great. I mean, well, it wouldn't be great because they're in the AFC, so that would suck for us. But that would be fun to watch. I love the Green Bay idea. I hadn't thought about that. The one I hear all the time is the Tennessee Titans because they're also known to make those big brash moves. John Robinson just he's kind of wheeling and dealing a little bit. You know, that's still front stove here in Tennessee, which is Julio to there. So I had to bring it up because obviously that's a social media thing. So the next question, the first question that we've got is from Joe, and this is a good one because I'm interested to get your take on this because this is your boy. He wants to know with how crowded their wide receiver room is, which we talked about last week. We were trying to name them. Do we think that Patman may actually try to make and how big he is, maybe make a switch over to tight end?
Yeah, I don't see that. I mean, I think he's a wide receiver. I think Ballard has always had a vision of that big body wide receiver working out. He really hasn't gotten that guy yet, that 50-50 guy. I don't think his tight end's in his future, honestly. I think we're pretty set at that position. We might add a veteran presence there, Zach Ertz post June 1st cut type of deal or something like that. But for me, it doesn't seem to be something that the Indianapolis Colts would do. I think they are committed to seeing what he's going to do as a wide receiver. That's just my personal opinion. What do you think about it, Stephen?
I'm on the same page, but for different reasons. I'm on the same page. I agree. They like what they saw. We all know that he needed to develop the ability to actually run the route tree. He didn't know it. He didn't have to know it at Washington State. They don't do that. So he had to develop. It was basically a redshirt year for him last year. But the other reason for me is I feel like, is he really good? He's not going to get snaps in the tight end room. The tight end room is pretty full already anyway. We know that, like I've said before, unless I hit on my hot take of Jack Doyle being cut, you have him who's reliable, who's the reliable old man in the room. And you already have your kind of developmental one in Mo Alley Cox. You've been developing him. You're kind of near the tail end. You've had to develop him over like the last 3 years. And then you have now, which, Zach Kiefer was talking about on the 1% Better podcast was, Kylan Granson, is that they love him. Like everyone's expecting him to be really, really involved in the game plan. So I don't see him making the switch because I don't see like there's a need. It's kind of like we talked with Zach Ertz. I struggle with that because I don't see a need in the tight end room right now. And I may be proven really wrong. I mean, I could be. Mo Alley could not take the next step. Granson could not look good. But plus I'm with you. I want to see what he does. He seems like, as I'm checking in my head, he's the biggest bodied receiver we have. I mean, he's a big guy. We don't really have that. I mean, Pittman's a big guy, but lean. He's a tall guy, but Patman
he's a drafted kid,
you're gonna bring it. Yes.
Yeah, he's a big body as well. That's gonna be that could be a fight to the end, like who makes that team actually for that last spot at wide receiver.
I saw on Twitter someone didn't follow our advice and they bought a Michael Strong jersey.
Yeah, they did.
That was my advice. I saw it. He got a like out of it. He got Michael to like it. So, I mean, it's I like him a lot too. I'm not going to list him on any list because I think he's a practice squad player. But I meant to tell you too, man. Your hot take about Sam Ehlinger got a nice little rise out of Tony D last week, by the way, too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was interested in it. He wanted to talk more about it, man. So let's do one more. And then we'll kind of round it out. So the last one is from Don Dowden. And I'm going to kind of rephrase how he wrote it because he wrote it a little bit before and we've already given our predictions. But basically, if everything goes well with Carson, do we see he has 12-5? Obviously, we know what our records were that we picked in a good playoff run. So I want to kind of tweak it that if everything goes the way we think, which I think me and you are really like-minded with what we think Carson's going to do this year, if everything clicks, what's the ceiling for the team?
So for me, 12 wins, yes. We can get that, obviously. We did on the last pod. I think we win at least a playoff game this year, possibly two. I don't think that let's just see. I think health has a big. I think we are going to compete for the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl this year. But us beating the Chiefs is, to me, I still think the Chiefs are a little bit better football team as we speak right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. As the season goes, I just want to see what Carson Wentz can do. And I want to see what type of quarterback he's going to be. I want to see how he plays in the big games, especially the primetime games, the spotlights. I want to see if he goes out there and he kind of accepts that challenge, or if maybe not. I want to see how that happens. So, yeah, I think we win 12 games. I think we win at least a playoff game. I think we're going to be right there in the mix for the chance to play for the Super Bowl. I think we'll be I think AFC Championship game, if you told me we make the AFC Championship game this year, I'm not surprised, not one bit by that.
So I agree. I think that 12 wins is doable. Obviously, we talked about that on the last episode. If Carson, and I think a great point too is that we're going to know pretty much right out the gate, because he's got some big games right out the gate. He looks good. I mean, it's in shorts and a jersey, no helmet, no pads, but he looks comfortable. You go back and you watch these different things. Like when the Colts made the trade for him, I totally went back on Amazon and watched the All or Nothing season with him for the Eagles from 2019. And I came away so impressed with how he was that season. Now, obviously I didn't follow him last year, and that's where the wheels came off. But I mean, we talked about it earlier in this episode. So goes him, so goes the season, more than likely. Man, I'm not going to go hot take, but I agree. I agree that I could see them going to the AFC title game. If he's clicking and he's 2017 Carson Wentz, it could be a Super Bowl, because we have proven we do. It's not necessarily him that we need to beat the Chiefs. It's going to be Buckner, Kamoko Toure, Ben Banagoo, Kwity Paye. Those are the keys to that kind of game. And on any given game, I mean, we've put him on his back before, but if he's playing at 2017 Carson Wentz MVP level, if he's in the MVP conversation, I'm putting them in the Super Bowl conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. I mean, I don't feel like that's too much of a hot take, but I don't know if he's going to be in the MVP. I put it on Twitter today, I think, that I do think he's depending on how he looks, he'll be front runner for comeback of the year. I mean,
yeah, I think that's a distinct possibility, honestly. Yeah. Shameless plug. I went on proswap.com. I have got a little scratch in there. I bet about $17, and I'm going to win about $480 if he's the MVP. So there's nobody rooting more in the world that Carson Wentz gets the MVP than me. Hey, you know what it is? I'm gonna blow $17 on a pizza anyways. I might as well bet on him to win an MVP, and we'll just see what happens.
Hey, I would do it if my wife wouldn't get mad at me, if I could hide that fact. But I'm busy trying to buy our own swag. So as always, like I said, social media sessions, it's really important. Get involved. We drop this stuff into the Facebook groups. We drop it on Twitter. Like you said, Colts Nation 365 is where you find Zach. Stephen Burton 86, you find me. No Horsing is where you find the podcast. Connect on any of them. DM anything. Even if you just want to chat, just send us one. We love talking to you guys. We're as active as we can be on there. We're pretty active to be able to kind of maintain that connection with you guys. And it's important too. We didn't say it in the beginning. I want to hit it right now too. Please, please, please rate, review, subscribe, share, follow, whatever you do on whatever platform you do it on. Please go do it. It's really fun. It's really important for us. We talked about it last time, reading some of the reviews. It's really cool, to kind of get the feedback, to hear you. And even in the reviews, and I may be different with this, Zach, I love when we're called out by name in the reviews. Like, not just like, oh, this podcast is good. It's like, oh, I love the interactions between Zach and Steven, or the information that Zach brings is great. Like, I love that too. And like I said, just hit the 5-star, go down, type a quick review. If you're listening on Spotify, just hit the follow. We know there's no way to do reviews on their iHeartRadio, but just listen to it, knock it out. It's, take 5 seconds right now and do it. It's huge for us. So here at the end, we're going to do a couple of quick little things. We want to give another shameless plug to the merchandise. Go on over there. pump it out. I've got stuff in my cart already. Zach knows I'm getting ready to order some stuff. So I will not be the first person, but that's okay. If you are the first person, yet again, reminder, please DM us if you have bought something from the shop, because we would love to talk to you. Like I said, maybe have you on. You can talk a little Colts with us for a little bit. We love that too. So, I mean, shameless plug for that.
Promo
Zach,
code No Horsing 1 for free shipping too right now for the rest of the month. So,
absolutely. I did that. It shaves like, depending on how much you buy, how much you have in that cart. That's a big difference, man. That can be a big difference. So yes. No Horsing 1 is definitely the promo code you want to put in there. So here at the end, I'm not, and I told Zach, so me and Zach talked earlier today. I'm really, really excited. I'm not going to say what. Well, I'll say what. I'm not going to say who. We're really, really excited. We're nailing down the date. I'm hoping maybe next week. It's a possibility maybe the week after because of what's kind of going on. We have been told by a Colts player that they very much are excited to come on to No Horsing with me and Zach. So when I get confirmation on the date, Zach knows who it is. Like, I'm not holding up a sign because you guys will see on YouTube, but Zach totally knows who it is. I've been like giddy, like a fanboy all day since it. Like I sent a snapshot to Zach about it. Like we're really excited. We're just trying to nail down the actual day. And when I get the date and we know the date that it is happening, y'all will all know. And I have a feeling you guys are going to be really, really excited. Don't you think, Zach?
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's just super cool to have, an interaction with all year long. We talk Colts football, we talk about all these players, and to actually have them come on and kind of step into our world, for however long, whether it be 10, 15 minutes, a half an hour, a whole show, it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's what we do it for. We're fans. We're a voice for the fans, and to get an opportunity to actually use our voices on our fans' behalves, and have a player jump on our podcast. I mean, that's just a really good feeling, man. I mean, that's what we do this for, because we love this game so much, and we love this team and this community so much. So yeah, man, I'm fired up. I'm ready to get that date. I'm ready to lock it in and say, all right, man, here's the announcement. Here's what we got going on. But it's a process, I mean, these guys are all trying to, get going, and they've got to have football on their mind first. And then this stuff kind of all comes back. So yeah, it's going to be cool, man.
Yeah, just a fun little behind the scene thing. When I sent it to Zach, all Zach responded with was, "I love you." That's all he said when I sent it to him. So we're excited about it. Hopefully, we can get, like I said, there's a possibility that it's next week. It may not. We're really fluid with him on dates and times. That's what I've told them. And we're just pumped, man. We're excited. So. Yeah. Thank you guys again for listening. We always end it the same way. I love you. Zach loves you. We're out.